My name is Steffen Murau. I'm a political economist specialized in questions of international money and finance. I'm the principal investigator of the OBFA-TRANSFORM project, and the monetary architecture framework is the conceptual lens that we're using in our research group. We often talk about questions of money and finance. For instance, we talk about the international monetary system, about financial crises, about sovereign debt, about financing transformation, financing development. And whenever we tackle one of those questions, what we're really thinking about is the behavior of a web of interlocking balance sheets. The monetary architecture framework wants to make it explicit that we are talking about this very historically specific and highly idiosyncratic setup of balance sheets. Nobody has planned how the system looks. It's subject to historical transformations. It looks different in every country, and it looks different at various points in time. The monetary architecture framework allows us to generate maps like construction plans of the monetary and financial system at a specific moment in time. And these construction plans can then be used to ask different types of follow-up questions. One follow-up question would be to look backwards. So for instance, we want to understand really how did a financial crisis play out? What were the dynamics that we saw there? Or these questions can also be forward-looking and more normative. So we can ask, how can we make the system behave in a way that we desire so that it produces desired outcomes? Questions like this would then be, for instance, how can we finance the green transition, or how can we finance development? One major project in our research group was to reconstruct the dynamics of the global financial crisis and of the euro crisis through the prism of the monetary architecture framework. For this project, we had the idea that each of these crises is defined by 3 steps that relate to dynamics in the web of interlocking balance sheets. The first step is contraction, the second is called elasticity, the third is innovation. Each crisis starts with the contraction of credit instruments. Credit instruments are both assets and liabilities on different balance sheets. At the beginning of the crisis, one type of instrument will start contracting, and then we can see contagion and spillover. The financial instability permeates really through the web of interlocking balance sheets. The second step is called elasticity. This refers to inbuilt mechanisms to tame such contraction dynamics. Usually it means that hierarchically higher balance sheets expand and then provide different forms of emergency liquidity to hierarchically lower balance sheets. There are existing elasticity mechanisms in any monetary architecture, and when they're sufficient, they just tame the contraction dynamics and no major crisis emerges. But in both the big crises that we looked at, the global financial crisis and the euro crisis, the inbuilt elasticity mechanisms were insufficient. That meant that the contraction dynamics kept on carrying on, and they could only be stopped through innovations, which are also a form of elasticity provision, but new ones that were invented on the spot. We have published the findings of a research project on a website that offers an interactive online tool where users can follow the crisis dynamics step by step. Overall, this proves our point that financial crises at their very heart are just specific type of system behavior in the web of interlocking balance sheets. One particular concept of the monetary architecture framework are off-balance sheet fiscal agencies, or OBFAs. Once you start mapping out the web of interlocking balance sheets, you realize that there are a lot of entities that somehow belong to the state, but are neither the treasury nor the central bank, which we usually think of as the core balance sheets of the state. They can be special funds, they can be public development banks, they can be public foundations, they can appear in various different guises. And we have introduced the label of a fiscal ecosystem to capture the totality of entities related to the state. We want to understand which type of off-balance sheet fiscal agencies are there, when have they emerged, why have they emerged, do they sometimes disappear, what functions do they fulfill, are they a problem, is it just a normal state of affairs, or can they actually be the solution for some problems? To give some examples, in the US, policymakers created OBFAs such as Maiden Lane 1, 2, and 3, which de facto acted as bad banks for Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers who had failed. And in Europe, there was really this alphabet soup of OBFAs created, for instance, on a supranational level, the EFSF, EFSM, and later ESM. Overall, these examples show that OBFAs are added to monetary architectures all the time and transform them in the long run.